The day my family asked me to confess to a felony I did not commit, they already had my confession typed and waiting on the kitchen table. My sister had hit a man with my SUV and left him seriously injured on the side of the road. But instead of protecting the victim, my family gathered around me and decided I would take the blame. They thought I was the perfect sacrifice because, in their minds, I had nothing left to lose. They had no idea that the quiet daughter they had ignored for 14 years was actually a federal judge. My name is Iris Ashford. I was 39 when this happened. I had driven 6 hours to my parents' house for my father's birthday because my 13-year-old niece, Emma, had begged me to come. I had not visited in almost 3 years. The house looked exactly the same, including the wooden bowl beside the front door where everyone placed their car keys. That night, my sister Colleen was drinking wine while talking about her campaign for state senate. She was the golden child, and my father treated her political career like the future of the entire family. Shortly before midnight, I heard the garage door open and close. I heard quiet voices downstairs, but I was tired and went back to sleep. The next morning, the local news reported that a 61-year-old man had been hit near Route 9 and left critically injured. Witnesses had seen a dark SUV escaping the area. I immediately thought about my car. When I walked outside, my SUV was facing the wrong direction. The right headlight was cracked, and there was a pale scrape across the bumper. Even stranger, the damaged area looked like someone had tried to clean it. My mother appeared behind me and calmly told me there was a family meeting. When I entered the kitchen, my father's longtime lawyer was already sitting there. A legal pad was in front of him, along with a cup of coffee. Then he pushed a document across the table. It was a confession. My confession. According to the document, I had been driving, panicked after the accident, and left the injured man behind. My mother put both hands on my shoulders and said, "Just say you were driving." I asked why they wanted me to do it. My father answered without hesitation, "Colleen has a campaign. You have nothing to lose." Then my sister looked at me and smiled. Who would believe you anyway? That was their biggest mistake. They still believed I was the failed daughter from 14 years ago. When I was 25, I had failed the bar exam on my first attempt. My father had publicly joked that I had washed out of law school because it helped his political image. But months later, I passed the exam. I left the county, became a public defender, and eventually became a federal judge. I never told my family. I had spent 14 years letting them believe I had failed because I thought silence protected me. Now that same silence was being used against me. I called an attorney named Renee Okafor. She immediately told me not to touch my SUV. The vehicle had been recording information. The driver profile showed that the seat had been moved from my normal position. More importantly, Colleen's phone had connected to the vehicle shortly before midnight and disconnected less than half an hour later. I did not remove the evidence myself. Renee brought in an independent forensic technician who photographed everything and properly preserved the electronic records. Then the state. Police obtained their own records directly from the vehicle manufacturer. They also found doorbell camera footage from a nearby house showing my SUV leaving my parents' driveway around 11:30 and returning. Shortly before midnight, Colleen had told investigators she was upstairs. Her story was falling apart. While the investigation continued, I visited the hospital and learned about the man my family had reduced to a political problem. His name was Walter Boone. He had worked at a diner for 30 years. His injuries meant he would probably never return to his old job the same way. His wife sat beside him every day, terrified about their future. Then I saw my sister's campaign advertisement playing on a television in the waiting room. Her slogan was about accountability. I almost laughed. My father eventually discovered that I was a federal judge. Instead of being ashamed, he became excited. He immediately started talking about how powerful the story could become. A federal judge taking responsibility for an accident, he said, could make the family look honorable and save Colleen's political career. That was the moment I understood the truth. They were not thinking about me as their daughter. They were thinking about what I was worth. Then, my mother came to me alone. She offered me everything I had secretly wanted for years. She promised family dinners, Christmases, birthdays, and a place in the family photographs again. She said my father would put my picture back on the wall, but there was a price. She wanted me to become uncertain in court. She wanted me to say I could not clearly remember the night. She never directly asked me to lie. She was smarter than that. She asked me to forget just enough truth to save my sister. For 14 years, I had wanted my family to choose me. Now they were finally offering me a place. But only if I helped destroy myself. I looked at my mother and said, "Mom, I have spent 14 years being the version of me that was convenient for this family. Tomorrow I am going to be accurate." The next morning, I walked into the courthouse. Reporters were waiting outside. Inside, Walter Boone sat in a wheelchair beside his wife. I took the stand and told the truth. I explained the key bowl, the missing keys, the garage door, the damaged SUV, the altered seat, the phone connection, the electronic evidence, and the confession my family had prepared for me. I did not scream, did not insult anyone. I simply told the truth, and the evidence matched my story. Colleen eventually lost control and tried to reshape the situation in front of the court. But this was not a campaign rally. Every word mattered. The case moved forward. Months later, Colleen accepted a plea agreement for leaving the scene of an accident involving serious injury. She received jail time, probation, restitution, and a suspended license. Her political campaign ended. My father's lawyer faced a professional investigation, and the local prosecutor eventually stepped away from politics. My parents were not charged, but I stopped speaking to them. Walter survived and eventually returned to the diner for limited hours. His life would never be exactly the same, but he was alive. Then Emma asked me what really happened. This time, I told her everything. She listened and finally said, "Nobody ever tells me things straight." That sentence stayed with me. For years, my family had decided who I was. The failure. The quiet daughter. The person who could be sacrificed because she supposedly had nothing to lose. But they were wrong. I had my name. I had my career. I had my conscience. Most importantly, I finally had the courage to stop making myself smaller just so other people could feel comfortable. My family thought they had erased me from their lives. They were wrong. I had simply stepped outside the frame they had created for me. And sometimes, losing the people who only love the version of you that is convenient is not the end of your story. Sometimes, it is the moment your real life finally begins.